Breaking news, death toll rising. As 43 states relax restrictions, a new model out tonight projects the death toll in the U.S. will double to at least 134,000 by August. Is America reopening too quickly?
If they open back up the states in different places, it's gonna be a second wave.
With tensions boiling over a protest in front of the Massachusetts State House, asking the governor to reopen. And this terror threat. Federal agents find pipe bombs at the home of a Colorado man who organized rallies against stay-at-home orders. What was he planning? Blaming China, CBS News obtains a government report that alleges China hid the severity of the coronavirus to hoard medical supplies. Tensions between Washington and Beijing sky high. Tonight, President Trump threatens to retaliate. Emotional return. A first responder who came out of retirement to help New York is flown back home after he fell victim to the virus. Racing to a cure. A major international summit looks to fast-track possible vaccines. So why didn't the U.S. show up? Plus, a new antibody test gets the emergency green light from the FDA. But can these tests really tell if we are immune to the virus? And we have a new series looking ahead to Mother's Day. Tonight, how a chef and her mom bonded in the kitchen and the new challenge they face in the pandemic.
This is the CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell, reporting from the nation's capital.
Tonight, the U.S. shattering the record for most COVID cases in a single day, over 77,000 in just 24 hours. The country nearing 140,000 deaths, and a new report about an unreleased White House document calling for 18 states in the so-called red zone to roll back reopenings. In Florida, new closures and curfews just announced late today as cases there surge. Texas reporting its deadliest day yet. Also, the showdown over masks intensifying. Georgia's governor suing Atlanta's mayor for requiring them, how she's firing back. California ordering most of its schools to stay closed. The nation's third largest district, Chicago, revealing a hybrid learning plan. Teachers on edge, one saying it's time to update her will. There's news tonight from the Supreme Court. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her new health battle. The major action by the Pentagon involving the Confederate flag after President Trump defended it as freedom of speech. Explosive allegations of sexual harassment against former employees of Washington's NFL team. How the owner is responding. And the World War II veteran whose journey inspired the world receiving high honors today from the Queen.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. Is it time to push the COVID lockdown button again?
Tonight, the coronavirus in the U.S. Experts now warning of the risks of states trying to open too quickly. And the new data tonight, the virus not just attacking the lungs, but the kidneys and the heart, what we now know. And news tonight, the first deaths here in the U.S. were weeks earlier than first thought. What we've learned about those cases and where. And the reality tonight inside hospitals across this country. The startling images just outside New York City, the emergency room filled. Even as authorities say we're past the peak, doctors and nurses there trying to revive patients. In New York, 474 lives lost in just the past 24 hours. And tonight, the next chapter of this, Governor Cuomo and his call tonight for a contact tracing army. Thousands of people who will help trace any signs of a second outbreak. Also tonight, some states starting to reopen without meeting the guidelines from the White House. In Georgia, where gyms, hair salons, and bowling alleys are set to open Friday, restaurants next week. The mayor of Atlanta tonight saying there is nothing essential about going to a bowling alley in the middle of a pandemic. The developing headline at this hour involving a doctor at the Department of Health and Human Services. That doctor, a federal worker, helping to lead the fight at the agency in charge of developing a COVID-19 vaccine. Tonight, he says he was removed from his post because he spoke up about drugs not backed by science, including hydroxychloroquine, the drug repeatedly promoted by President Trump. Did he lose his job after speaking out? The long lines for food in this country, the airport in Pittsburgh tonight transformed, in Ohio and in Florida too. And the new concern, 54 million Americans could go hungry, including 18 million children. as another major meat processing plant, this time in Iowa, suspends operations. Nearly 200 sickened. And we continue to follow the food farmers are being forced to destroy. Tonight, news on some of that produce and where it's now going. And we have reported so much here on the lungs tonight, the new data on who this virus targets, who is most vulnerable, the dangers to kidneys and the heart, and the factors that put you most at risk. And we do have news tonight on 2 pets that have tested positive for the virus here in the U.S.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. It is great to have you with us here.
Good evening. I'm Judy Woodruff on the NewsHour tonight. The virus on the rise. Infection numbers reach new highs as the Trump administration urges a return to schools this fall. Then, the view from abroad. A look at America's place in the world in the face of a spiraling COVID-19 crisis. And powering the future. How the promise of electric vehicles is driving a new demand for lithium batteries.
By the time we're in 2025, 70% of the demand of lithium will come from electric vehicle demand.
All that and more on tonight's PBS NewsHour. The summer surge of COVID-19 is raising more and more questions about reopening schools this fall.
Lunes 16 de diciembre y estas son las principales noticias. Miles de personas hacen cola en Nueva York, donde comenzaron a expedir licencias de conducir a indocumentados. La legislatura de Nueva Jersey hoy aprobó una medida similar. Como parte del acuerdo comercial, Estados Unidos quiere enviar 5 funcionarios para inspeccionar el trato que México da a los trabajadores. México dice que no lo va a permitir. Tras una ola de críticas, el canal Hallmark restablecerá un comercial sobre bodas que muestra besándose a una pareja lesbiana. Lo habían retirado por presión de grupos conservadores. Y 4 años después de prometerlo, el régimen de Nicolás Maduro finalmente distribuye perniles o cerdos rusos para la cena de Navidad de los venezolanos, pero sus seguidores son los más beneficiados, dice la oposición. Empezamos.
Este es su noticiero Univision, con Jorge Ramos e Ilia Calderón.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes. Comenzamos con las largas filas que se formaron en Nueva York en el primer día en que las oficinas estatales que expiden licencias para conducir están aceptando solicitudes de inmigrantes indocumentados.
Alimentos más caros. La pandemia provoca un aumento de un 20% en la carne, un 10% en los huevos, golpeando todavía más a millones de personas sin trabajo ni ayuda del gobierno. Buenas tardes. La principal causa de esa subida es el cierre de las plantas de carne, aunque millones de latinos siguen trabajando a cualquier precio. Se lo mostramos en nuestra serie Primera Línea. Esta es nuestra principal noticia y además, este miércoles, acuerdo por ayuda. Avanzan las negociaciones para el paquete de alivio económico. Hay acuerdo por un nuevo cheque de $1,200, pero hay diferencias en otros temas. Se espera un voto la semana próxima. Una ciudad arrasada. Buscan sobrevivientes entre las ruinas de la explosión en Beirut. El estallido ha dejado más de 100 muertos y a más de 300,000 personas sin hogar. Con salón propio en nuestros negocios, les mostramos cómo 2 estilistas de Chicago consiguieron abrir su propio salón de belleza después de haberse quedado sin trabajo en la pandemia.
Noticias Telemundo con José Díaz Balart.
La crisis del coronavirus ha disparado el precio de los alimentos en Estados Unidos a niveles que no se habían visto en décadas. Productos básicos como carnes, huevos, cuestan hasta 20% más, mientras millones de personas siguen sin trabajo. Lourdes Hurtado amplía.
Good evening, I'm Ian Hannamansing. Tonight, cities show how hard it can be to find the balance in reopening.
It just, again, reasserts that you have to be more cautious and more careful.
As Ontario moves ahead, what lessons are there in the rest of Canada?
we're asking the Liberal government to make sure that Justin Trudeau comes to this committee and testifies.
A parliamentary ethics committee gives Justin Trudeau a temporary reprieve.
Courage is not the opposite of cowardice. Courage is actually the opposite of conformity.
As the CFL team confronts its name, we talk with former Commissioner Jeffrey Orridge. And to this news, sir, with love from a nation. A very British scene in the fight against COVID-19. This is The National. We have all sacrificed a lot to flatten the COVID-19 curve, but now a new dilemma, jump-starting the economy without boosting the rate of infection.
Ici Céline Galipo. Québec ouvre enfin la porte aux proches aidants dans les habitations pour personnes âgées et redonne leur liberté aux aînés autonomes en résidence. Transport de matériel de protection de la Chine vers le Canada, tout un défi logistique. Ce soir, au téléjournal.
On ne laisse pas rentrer. Elle est en train de mourir d'ennui, elle réclame la mort. Tous les milieux devront accueillir le proche aidant.
On veut s'assurer que ça devienne la règle.
Il n'y a pas un matin où je me lève sans pleurer.
C'est important de vous donner un peu plus de liberté.
Les gens, je pense qu'ils ont hâte que l'élastique puisse s'étirer.
C'est une course quotidienne, en tout cas pour les fournisseurs du Québec.
Ça a pris 8 heures à faire le chargement de l'avion.
C'est presque des miracles avec un monstre comme ça.
Bonsoir, mesdames, messieurs. D'abord, un mot pour vous dire que, comme beaucoup d'entre vous, ma vie est bousculée ces jours-ci parce que ma mère est dans un état grave à l'hôpital et c'est ce qui explique mes absences ponctuelles du téléjournal. J'ai aussi une pensée pour tous ceux qui ont en ce moment des proches qui sont hospitalisés ou qui sont dans des CHSLD parce que c'est insoutenable l'angoisse qu'on peut vivre. Voilà.
Tonight, a rash of new COVID infections across Canada, including a newborn baby. Testing positive inside a neonatal ward.
The one infant is part of the outbreak.
Plus, an overhauled aid plan for businesses. But is it too late?
We have a huge hole to climb out of.
Accusations of intolerance over a proposed bylaw to clear the streets.
Can't sit on the benches in town. Can't cool off by the lake.
We're hoping to give the police a little more power.
The controversy that's divided a lakefront community. Plus, going the distance for a cousin in need.
He finds this pretty cool, which is pretty heartwarming.
The dawn of an epic journey on the open waters.
CTV National News with Lisa Laflamme. Reporting tonight, Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. We begin tonight with a series of struggles in the fight against a persistent pandemic, invading even the most sanitized spaces.
On this Friday night, pushing for answers into the We Charity affair, the Liberals' stall tactics, and why the Conservatives are demanding a second separate investigation. Canada's new multi-million-dollar deal with a Chinese government-owned firm. The contract with a company dubbed the Huawei of airport security. As America's COVID-19 cases climb, tensions escalate.
Her decision to undermine economic growth is devastating.
Why Georgia's governor is suing Atlanta's mayor. And that's Captain Sir Tom Moore to you now.
It really was truly outstanding.
England's national treasure gets knighted.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Sonia Diol.
Good evening and thanks very much for joining us. Well, there's a new development tonight in the We Charity controversy that is plaguing the Liberal government.